चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वञ्चाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. First of all, I offer my Sangdandavat pranams under the lotus feet of our most worshipful Srila Gurudev Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Srila Guru Maharaj, to our Rupanuga Guru Varga, and to all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. So we continue reading from Chaitanya sikshamrita. So you still remember what we discussed, what we have read yesterday? We've read that there's like a primary similarity with all the different religious organization philosophies. And what is that? They have some faith in the concept of Ishvara. So whether it be like a moon or a sun, or like some tree, or like a Bhagavan, like that. But some concept of Ishvara is there. But then there are some differences also. And I said, mainly because of five things. You remember them? The teacher, they will have some difference in like who is the teacher, the acharya. Then what else? The second and the third, they go together. Like they have a certain process, so they will have different process. Like this, some differences will be there, and that is based on the worshipper. What is the realization of the worshipper and his like moods. Like so some they worship deities, some they don't worship deities, like this. Then what else? Fourth? No. The deities actually, that's the fourth one. Like the object of their worship, like what is the object of their worship? That's the fourth one. And the fifth one is differences because of differences of language, then they have all these different names and descriptions. So, and very interesting, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was saying that if you happen to be in a place where you see like a system which is different from how you're worshipping Bhagavan, how do you reconcile? He said like, oh, they're worshipping my Ishtadev, my Lord, they're worshipping my Lord, but in according to like their own way, like that. So, and he said it's a big mistake, and it will not make any good result if you try to impose on others. Like, oh, it has to be like this. So he said, we teach according to what like what Mahaprabhu is teaching, but we don't criticize like whatever system or like whatever like mode of worship others are doing. But he said, if there's some fault in their thing, we don't accept that. Like for example, we don't criticize like whatever worship. It's good. We understand. It's good. Somehow they're worshiping like this. But if there's some like mistake, let's say some of them are even following Mahaprabhu, and then they're doing some imitationist like way. Yeah, like Sahajiya or like this. Like let's say one of their activity is like they do Rasalila, for example. And like that. And we will experience like that in this world, like this. So then we don't do that. We don't follow. Let them do as like. But you can explain like, oh, this is not proper. So we continue now. Yes. Yeah, and the same way also here from the very beginning, it says there's these levels, no, from uncivilized to the devotional level. There's 3 levels there, like civility, scientific, and what is that? Moral level. And it said, what will prevent someone from progressing? This atheism, this like Mayavad, like, so these things from the very beginning Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, because these things are not teaching religion, they're not accepting like like a supreme person, like the Ishvara. They're actually negating the principle of there is an Ishvara. When you say you are all Ishvara like this, but you forgot you are actually God like this, so that is like atheistic, like this. So this one, we fight over this. We're telling this, this will stop you from progressing. So we continue now.
Бхактивинода Такура, 76 лет. А вот Джаганатха Дас Бабаджи Махарадж, 144 года.
So, I think this is where we stop. He said, those who do not accept this point of view and who are critical, envious, violent, or spiteful toward other religious methods are extremely ignorant. They give more attention to useless argument than to attaining their own perfection. So now we continue. He said, there is only one point to be considered here. Okay, so listen. He said, only one point to be considered here. To criticize the process of another's worship is ignorant and worthless. However, if there is a fault or some genuine lacking of proper understanding in a particular system of worship, then we are unable to offer respect to that. Okay, so you may not criticize, but we don't offer respect to that if it's faulty. And we see, I think we read this already yesterday. Like Mahaprabhu also giving an example. He said, purifying a method of worship by the correct application of a remedy, it brings auspiciousness for everyone. And so he's giving an example. Through discussions with Jains, Buddhists, and impersonalists, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought them onto the proper path. So we know Buddhists, they have this like nihilist like philosophy, no? The impersonalists. So Mahaprabhu, and we see Mahaprabhu, he tried to purify them. He was not fighting with them, but like he would discuss, like those who are like who are open-minded, then he's telling like this. And Mahaprabhu not showing also that, okay, he may not criticize, but he's showing that he's not like tolerating the mistakes also. He would even say like, oh, if you see Mayavadi and like you hear their philosophy, then with your cloth you jump, to the Ganga or to the river. You take bath with your cloth. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought them onto the proper path. Mahaprabhu's followers should always attempt to emulate his personal character as the ideal example. So devotees understand that those religious processes that contain the unwanted propensities of, okay, so these are the different processes, propensities, atheism. So they call it Nastikyavad, skepticism, Sandehavad, materialism, Jadavad, nihilism or soullessness, Anatmavad, liberalism or egocentrism, meaning to literally follow one's own conditioned nature. That is Swabhavavad. And in
То же
personalism,
самое Шрила Бхактивинода
Nirvisheshvad,
Махарадж в своем предисловии тоже
they are
сказал,
not religions or
что
dharma
в
at
играх
all.
Махапрабху
So he's
Бхактивинода
saying
Такур это
like this.
вьяса. Почему? Потому что вьяса это не просто личность,
So he said all
это
those processes
пост.
that contain this,
Кроме того, если
this all these
кто-то
impurities, this unwanted
распространяет
like
это
teachings,
течение,
they are not religion at
его
all. They are not
называют
dharma.
вьясой.
Like that. So what are these? How many are there? One. Okay.
Он никто иной,
Nastikyavad,
как Джагадгуру,
Sandehavad,
гуру всего
Jarvad,
мира. Он составил
Anatmavad,
столько песен преданности на хинди, бенгале,
Swabhavad,
санскрите, ории и урду.
and Nirvisheshvad. 6.
Кто является
So,
основателем
okay,
Гаудия
we'll just repeat. Atheism.
Наш Парам Гуру
So everyone understand, no? Atheism. Skepticism.
И
What's
также
skepticism?
многие храмы, которые
Like
открыли в
doubtless,
Индии.
like skeptical,
Он был
always
защитником
doubting.
Гаудия Сампрадаи, Ачарья Лев.
Skepticism,
Мой
materialism, we know.
духовный учитель
Materialism.
Шримад Бхактипрагьяна
You know,
Кешава
like, oh,
Госвами
you are the
Махарадж.
body, this world is for our
Он не
enjoyment, like all
только
this.
писал свои
Materialism.
труды, но также
Anatmavad,
издавал книги Шрилы Бхактивинода
this
Такура на
nihilism,
Бенгале.
soullessness. This is like the Buddhist teaching. You know, like
То, что
we
делал
don't
Парам
exist
Гурудев.
like this.
Он написал какие-то
So
книги,
that is Anatmavad.
песни тоже написал.
Then there is
Какие книги он
Swabhavavad,
написал?
this liberalism, egocentrism.
Вайшнава
It's interesting
Кидживани.
that Bhaktivinoda Thakur already like thought about this because this in the West now this is very common.
Что-то еще.
You know, to just use a certain pronoun that doesn't fit to like this is not me, like this.
Еще он
Then
писал
that's like you can
статьи
sue them. You know, they're into this thing.
Патриком.
Like that.
Можно их почитать,
Like,
на самом деле
too much
многие из них были
self-centered. You know,
переведены
like,
в
this is my
журнале
nature.
Harmonist.
I cannot
Да,
change. You
типа
cannot
можно
change my
увидеть,
nature
какой
like this. You
блистательный
know,
Парам
it's
Гурудев,
like I like animals.
сколько, ну,
So like
сиданты
this. Some
сокрыто в
people
его
like
трудах.
or I like little
Но
kids
кроме
like this. Or you know,
этого
so
он еще
this is my
прилагал
nature. So
немало
this
усилий, чтобы
Swabhavavad.
опубликовать книги
So
Бхактивинода
yeah,
Такура,
Bhaktivinoda
что
Thakur,
очень
he
важные
already
книги.
sees this and he mentions this.
У него было
So
сильное желание, чтобы все
then
книги
Nirvisheshvad,
Вайшнава
impersonalism.
Ачарьи, особенно книги Шрилы Бхактивинода Такура,
Yeah, that's this one.
были
Liberalism or
переведены
egocentrism. That
с
is the
бенгаля и
Swabhavavad.
санскрита
He says he mentions that.
на национальный
And
язык
then
Индии, то
impersonalism,
есть
that
хинди.
is, we know this impersonalism, God is not a person. Okay, Nirvisheshvad. So anything that is contaminated with this, you cannot call them religion.
Чтобы
Something like
потом это дальше знание распространялось на хинди.
Rather, they
Более
know
того,
them
еще
to be
открыл
heresy.
пишется Гаудия Мат
So he said they
Матхури
are vidharma. Vidharma. They are
в
pretentious religion. Or
1946
yeah,
году.
they're dharma
Потом
abbas.
стал выпускать
They are
журнал,
cheating
который
religion,
назывался
chala dharma, or religion, or irreligion, adharma. So they can be in any of these four. What is that? Again, vidharma, dharma abbas, chala dharma. Chala dharma meaning cheating dharma, cheating religion, and adharma,
все
irreligion.
предлагали, о, подписывайтесь на этот
Devotees understand the
журнал.
position of these worshippers to be very
Там
lamentable
подписчиков
and
всё
endeavor to
сейчас
protect innocent practitioners
всё
from
забыли.
these unwanted things. So
В
a real
основном
devotee, they will know, oh, these cheating religions, or you know, all these religions contaminated by all these, how many, 6, like unwanted teachings.
сейчас
He
такие
said,
технологии, то есть раньше раз в месяц
whoever
выпускали,
is
да,
worshipping,
журнал,
whoever is in that,
вот, и все
that
ждали
mode,
преданные. Сейчас можно
they are very
выпускать
lamentable.
хоть каждый день.
So when you
На
say
самом
very
деле хорошо
lamentable, that means what?
продолжать.
Like,
Ну и когда как бы продолжается, но Кали-юга, все так заняты,
lamentable, like
что-то делают, и
like
сейчас
you
уже не
can
могут даже
pitiful, huh?
раз
Like
в
something like
месяц
that.
выпускать,
Yeah, you feel sorry for
даже
them,
раз в 3
like this.
месяца.
Yeah.
Такую маленькую,
And he said,
тоненькую
and therefore
Патрику.
they endeavor to protect
Раньше
this,
вообще очень маленький.
to
Раньше
protect
каждый месяц
innocent
выходила
practitioners.
Патрика. Когда-то с вами Прабхупада был один
So
из
he's
редакторов
saying,
Бхагават Патрики.
Pure, spotless love, this Vimala Prem, is the eternal religion, the Nitya Dharma of the individual soul. Although the above mentioned 5 types of differences between various religions exist, the religion in which the inner intention is pure devotion is factual religion. Okay, he was already telling what is cheating religion, like that, when all these unwanted teachings are there. But what is the real religion? When this Vimala Prem, the spotless love, is there,
Они его пускали по
although
частям,
whatever differences is there, but this spotless love is there, then that is religion.
и таким образом люди, они
Arguing about the external
ждали,
differences of
когда
various
будет
religions is not
продолжение в
proper.
следующем месяце.
So he said, yes,
Чтобы это обсуждение
you look in
продолжалось.
this, the real definition of religion,
Например, там есть
that
такая секция
wherever there is
Бхактивинода
this
Тхакура,
pure devotion, okay, that is
Прабхупада
should be
читаем,
the concern.
Бхактивинода Вайбхава.
No, it's useless to
Сейчас
argue
тоже
over
они
the
снова
external
теперь издают
differences.
Патрики.
Yes. Like now we see, like many devotees, different kinds of devotees. They wear yellow, some wear white, some wear like saffron and like that. Should we fight over that? Like that? No. Our concern is like, if you see them, they're increasing the love of the practitioners, for God. That's very good. The theories of atheism, skepticism, materialism, egocentrism, soullessness, and belief in material fruitive action and impersonalism are all intrinsically opposed to pure love.
А сегодня Гурудев пишет в своем предисловии, когда отмечается 500-летие
More will be spoken on this matter further on.
Махапрабху.
Okay, so
По милости великих
then
Махапуруш,
he says, pure love for Sri Krishna or Krishna Prem is truly unblemished.
Читание
When you say
Сикшамрита,
unblemished, meaning not
лотосные руки
contaminated,
наших лидеров.
spotless.
Это
So he
учение
said,
читания Дева
the
очень
special
достойно,
quality
тоже
of
очень
prem
глубокое.
is that it
Гурудев,
takes shelter
то есть
of one
он
entity
что подразумевает?
and takes another as its object.
Получается, с одной стороны,
So now Bhaktivinoda Thakur is trying to make it like very
очень
clear,
простое, тоже
make us understand.
глубокое.
So this is
Как
the
объяснять?
special quality of prem.
Простое, что
It
даже
takes shelter of
неграмотные,
one
глупые
entity,
люди
meaning you're talking about the
могут
ashray, and then
вступить в
it
эту
takes
норму.
another as the object.
Почему простое?
Okay, so
Потому
then you
что
will see.
даже для
One is the
неграмотных
lover,
и
so that is the
глупых
shelter
людей
of
подойдет.
this prem, and one is the object.
Говорится,
So that is the
я
Vishai,
неграмотный,
ashray and the
я не могу
Vishai.
это читать. Так нет, эта книга очень простая.
Pure
Даже если
prem
ты
cannot
глупый
exist
и
without ashray,
неграмотный,
without the
без
shelter,
проблем сможешь понять
meaning
ее.
the lover, and an object, the Vishai.
Дальше говорится,
So there's always
и
two.
эта книга
When we talk
еще и
about
очень
prem, always
глубокая.
two.
А
The
глубокая в
ashray
том
and the
плане,
Vishai,
что
where this
великие
prem will take
ученые,
shelter
логики
and will
и
manifest
люди
to an
искусные,
object, to the Vishai.
в общем, большие эрудиты, они
So the hearts of the jivas are the
вкрываются в
shelter of
это
prem.
учение.
Sri Krishna is the only object
То
of
есть всех
prem.
разделов
So
лет.
that's very
Эта
clear.
книга самая
So
сходная,
what is the ashray
Сикшамрита.
of prem?
Представляете?
The heart of the jiva. And
Знаете, что же
what
там
is
такого в
the
этой
object of prem?
книге, что
Or
она
who is the
является сутью
object of
всех
prem?
лет?
Only Krishna. He's saying. After the complete
только
awakening
это
of pure prem in the heart, the aspects of the Lord
Есть еще такая
as
особенность в этой
Narayan,
книге.
Ishvara, and the impersonal Brahma
Вся ведическая
mature
литература,
into the
вся
form
суть
of
в
Sri
этой книге,
Krishna.
она не такая-то.
You understand that?
Все хорошие наставления, которые даны в ней,
He said, when you say Krishna, he is actually Swayam Bhagavan. But in the beginning, you may not fully appreciate who is Krishna. So you may only see an aspect of him,
то есть в
whether
этом
the
мире очень много
impersonal
разных религий, много
Brahman
разных
or the
философий,
Paramatma or
христианство,
Narayan or just like
ислам,
whatever Ishvara,
буддизм,
like that.
так много.
So, but when you say
Неважно,
when
западная
complete
религия или
awakening is there
индийские,
of
вот
prem,
если найти,
then
хотите
what
найти
happens?
какие-то
The mature form
наставления,
of these
да,
aspects it
это
takes
оттуда
into
вот все
form of
наставления,
Krishna.
они уже здесь, в
So you
этой
understand?
книге.
After reading this book in its entirety, the reader will
Не
clearly
только это.
understand in which manner prem should be cultivated,
Наставления,
and
которые
accordingly,
нельзя даже найти в
prem
этих
will be more or
религиях,
less
вы
understood.
найдете в этой книге.
So now he's giving
Вы,
us
в тех
an
религиях не
idea.
найдете, найдете в этой
You read this
книге.
book, and if you, he said, after reading this book in its entirety, like if you completely read this book, you have patience, because now you may say like, oh, this is not so
Неважно,
interesting.
семейный
It's
человек
talking
или
about all
отвлеченный.
these, religions and like that. Like
Допустим,
no,
кто-то семейный, да,
when
это
you read
значит
this whole book,
грехастха. Или,
you
допустим,
understand
отреченный. Отреченный
like how this
означает
prem is cultivated, and
брахмачари, ванапрастха, саньяси.
you will fully understand nature of this prem. Those who uselessly argue as to why the name Sri Krishna should be given to the Supreme are unable to understand the actual reality, which is indicated by the nomenclature. What's nomenclature?
Молодой человек, девушка,
Nomenclature.
старик или бабушка. Даже если человек вне касты, то есть тут вы никак не избежите этой милости. Кто-то говорит, ой, там, я, допустим, не в касте, не
those who uselessly argue as to why the name Sri Krishna should be given to the Supreme. Because some people they argue like, why only Krishna? Like, they're not happy also that Krishna is calling. Like this. So they always argue why the name of Krishna should be given to the Supreme. They're unable to understand the actual tattva, which is indicated by the nomenclature. So nomenclature is there to indicate the real tattva, like this. So,
если вы примете учение Махапрабху,
nomenclature
то
is like
вы обретете высшее благо. Мой старший духовный брат, президент Гаудия Веданта Самити, то есть кто это Паривраджа Качарья Бхактивинода Вамана Госвами Махарадж, глубоко привязан к мистическому знанию, могущественная ачарья.
And there's that nomenclature, like just like this, like aspects of that. I don't know.
Он продолжает опускать книги предыдущих ачарьи на хинди, бенгале, санскрите, по его особой милости, при его особой поддержке.
Okay, so it's like one person, but he has many different names. All these different names are nomenclatures. Like labels. Like that. So he said, those who always argue that why Krishna, you put Krishna, a name, why you call Bhagavan only as Krishna? He said they'll never understand the tattva, that who is indicated by all these names. Because in reality, Krishna is like the principal name. It comprises all the other names. Bhagavan has so many names. And really, like, there's nothing to be, to feel bad about it. Because when you say Krishna, means all attractive. Such arguments are worthless. That which the name indicates is the real object to search for, and that is most desirable for the jivas. The crest jewel of all scriptural works. What do you think? Which one? Said the crest jewel of all scriptural works. There's many scriptural works, many scriptures. What is the crest jewel? Srimad Bhagavatam. He said, the Srimad Bhagavatam has described Sri Krishna's character. Sri Vyasadeva, the most learned of personalities, realized the tattva in his devotional trance. So he had this, he calls it Bhakti Samadhi. By his Bhakti Samadhi, then he realized the tattva. Who? Vyasadeva. By the transcendental instructions of Sri Narad, he saw the Swarup of the Supreme Person, Sri Krishna. The descriptions of what he saw can awaken pure devotion to Sri Krishna. You understand? So where is this description? He's saying that by following Narad Muni, instructions of Narad Muni, Vyasadeva, he saw the Swarup of Krishna. And therefore, he described, where? In Srimad Bhagavatam. He said, these descriptions of what he saw, he said, this can awaken pure devotion. This can awaken prem bhakti to Sri Krishna. That prem is free from all material designations and can remove all lamentation, illusion, and fear from within the jivas. Okay, so the jivas, we know, have always all this lamentation, illusion, and fear. These are all removed. By hearing or reading about Sri Krishna's character, the jivas acquire two types of understanding according to their qualification. Okay, so what are these? He's talking about two types of understanding. You acquire two types of understanding by hearing or reading about Sri Krishna's character. Okay, one, conception based on appropriate knowledge. This is called Vidvat Pratiti. And Second, conception based on inappropriate knowledge. Avidvat pratiti. Okay. Now, we're talking about terms here. So far, we cannot understand this. So it has to be given some example. We'll see. So, what is that? Vidvat pratiti and avidvat pratiti. There's this conception, some understanding based on appropriate knowledge, like proper knowledge. And one is based on improper knowledge, inappropriate knowledge. Okay. So he said, when Sri Krishna appeared in this material world, those jivas who were learned devotees saw him and his pastimes. How? With appropriate knowledge. So they have that kind of understanding. You understand that? So you see, he's talking about when you hear. Here it says, when you hear or read about Krishna's character, then there can be two kinds of understanding. One is based on proper knowledge, or one is based on improper knowledge. Okay, so now he's given an example. So there are learned devotees. He said, there are those jivas who are learned devotees. They saw Krishna and his pastimes with appropriate knowledge. When Krishna appeared in this world, those jivas who are actual devotees, they saw in proper knowledge. So they have this first one, Vidvat Pratiti. Those who are unlearned, non-devotees, having only material intelligence, what happens? They see Krishna, but their understanding is based on without appropriate knowledge. Yeah, so their conception is called avidvat pratiti. So you see the difference. They're seeing the same person, but their knowledge is proper or not. Why? Because they don't understand or they don't know. The devotees, they know bhakti and they know Krishna. When they see Krishna, then their knowledge of Krishna is proper. Yeah? So that's vidvat pratiti. Their conception, therefore, is based on like real knowledge. There are non-devotees. Some of them, or maybe demons also. They also see Krishna like that. But what is their conception of Krishna? This is based on inappropriate knowledge. Like hope, he's my enemy. Like that. So like that. That's a one conception. They say Krishna, but their conception is wrong. So that is avidvat pratiti. Complete understanding of vidvat pratiti and avidvat pratiti is available by careful and comprehensive study of books such as Sat Sandarbha. Who wrote the Sat Sandarbha? That is Jiva Goswami. Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Who wrote that one? Sanatan Goswami. Or Sri Krishna Samhita. Who wrote that one? Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And by following their teachings under the guidance of an appropriately qualified person. So he's showing to know, showing here that you want to know exactly who is God, in proper knowledge. You have to learn it from our Guru Varga. So he mentioned here 3 books. You want to know more about the subject matter? Read from Satsandarbha. That's very long. Brihad Bhagavatamrita, that's also long, but not as long as this Satsandarbha. But then there's Krishna Samhita. Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote this, and this is shorter. So maybe they can read directly in this one, Krishna Samhita. And by following, then you follow their teachings. It is not possible to give a thorough explanation of the subject matter here. Briefly, we can say that the understanding arising from the shelter of Bhagavan's knowledge potency, what is that? The Vidya Shakti, is actual Vidvat Pratiti. So he's telling that understanding that is based on or arising from taking shelter of Vidya Shakti, the knowledge potency of Bhagavan, that is actual Vidvat Pratiti. While the understanding that awakens by the shelter of Bhagavan's Avidya Shakti, what is that? Maya, his Maya, is called Avidvat Pratiti. Okay, so that's understandable. So now he's saying, examining the pastimes of Sri Krishna without proper knowledge or understanding. What is that? Vidvat or avidvat? That's avidvat. You examine the pastimes of Krishna without proper knowledge or understanding. That is avidvat. He said this leads to much controversy. And you will see, many devotees, they argue so much and they're fighting over all these controversial subject matters. These are all because of avidvat. There's somehow or other your understanding is contaminated, by some ignorance like this. So he said, there is no such dissension when we hear about his pastimes with the proper understanding. So this will not happen if you hear the pastimes with proper understanding. And that's only when really you just hear from the Guru, accept, like he explained to you everything, and then there's no controversy. Those desiring transcendental gain endeavor to gain experience through vidvat pratiti. You can understand that. Those desiring transcendental gain, transcendental, transcendental gain, endeavor to gain experience only through vidvat pratiti, only through proper knowledge. To argue from the basis of avidvat pratiti is worthless. Okay, so I think that's enough point, stressing here that make note. You try to understand with proper understanding, proper knowledge. So he said, I am endeavoring to give some illumination into what is proper understanding. So look, Bhaktivinoda Thakur here is he's really everything very properly, so he said, before he's trying to say anything, because he's trying to teach here. So he said, he's explaining this vidvat and avidvat, so then you have an understanding. So he said, now whatever I'm explaining, this is based on vidvat pratiti. Okay. So I am trying to give some illumination based on what is proper understanding. Those who have crossed beyond material conceptual thought are able to have a factual understanding of that which is beyond matter. Or you say chit tattva. So when you talk about chit tattva, this is spiritual, beyond matter. Real understanding of this is available to those who cross beyond material conception. It is possible for such people to have this conception with vidvat pratiti. So what he's trying to say? For you to have vidvat pratiti, you have to go over material conception. Okay, otherwise it will be avidvat. It's all contaminated by Maya. With their transcendental eyes. So he said, with their transcendental eyes, they see Bhagavan, Sri Krishna's form. With their transcendental ears, they listen to topics of Sri Krishna's pastimes. And with transcendental rasa, they taste everything of Sri Krishna. Okay. So in other words, this is what's happened with vidvat pratiti. You can see Krishna, you can see, you can listen with your transcendental ears. All these topics of Krishna's pastimes and taste everything of Sri Krishna. All the pastimes of Sri Krishna are transcendental and beyond the touch of matter. By his inconceivable potency, Achintya Shakti, Sri Krishna can reveal himself to the material eyes. Understand? You understand why he's telling like this? Because Krishna is completely transcendental. No. We have a material eyes. So really it's impossible. But how possible with your material eyes you can see? He said, only by Krishna's Achintya Shakti. Krishna has that inconceivable Shakti. Sri Krishna can reveal himself to the material eyes. But due to their very nature, all the dull material senses, such as the eyes, the ears, and others, are unable to perceive him directly. Without vidvat pratiti, whatever vision that one may have or one may have had of Sri Krishna with one's material eyes during the time of his manifest pastimes within this material world could not bear the same fruit that one would attain by having his direct and complete darshan. Did you get that? Very long sentence, and therefore sometimes difficult to catch. Well, what is he trying to say? He says, there is direct and complete darshan. And when is that? When someone sees with his spiritual eyes. With real eyes, he can see Krishna. Okay. Like in the spiritual world, they have a spiritual body, they see Krishna, that's directly, like this. But he said, how possible for us with material eyes to see him, to be like that? He said, only possible with Vidvat Pratiti. With Vidvat Pratiti, only by proper understanding, proper knowledge. He said, without Vidvat Pratiti, whatever vision that one may have had of Sri Krishna with one's material eyes during his pastime, manifest pastime, that could not bear the same fruit as one would attain by having his direct, complete darshan. Generally, we see that people are mostly possessed of avidvat pratiti. I said, unfortunately, this is a situation. Everyone has only avidvat pratiti. So, you may have darshan of Krishna, but you have avidvat pratiti. So, no result, it will not have the same result as like someone who really see directly. So, like every day we're having darshan of Krishna. Like Thakurji also, he's there. Like that, but then we have avidvat pratiti. We see, he's marble or like this. So this is avidvat pratiti. So it will not bear the same result. What's the result? Having prem, like this. Usually by avidvat pratiti, people inadvertently see Sri Krishna as temporary. So that's what happens. Because with Advidvat Pratiti, you see based on material conception. So he said, usually by Advidvat Pratiti, people inadvertently see Sri Krishna as temporary. They imagine that he takes birth, he grows old, and dies. So that's what happens. Even during the time of Krishna, then those with Avidvat Pratiti, they say like this. Oh, Krishna, from a small boy, he became old, then he died also. His foot got shot by the arrow, he died. Like the Avidvat Pratiti is the sole cause of the misunderstanding that the impersonal feature of the Lord is the reality, and that his personal manifestation endowed with form, qualities, and pastimes is material. Because of this, even though they accept the uniqueness of Sri Krishna, they consider him to be material. You're following that? So, and usually this is a situation with those Brahmavadis or Anmayavadis. They may accept, Krishna is not ordinary person, or they may say Krishna is God, or even like that. But they have avidvat pratiti, not proper knowledge. And what is that? Their conception that when you talk about God, is that, he is spiritual, he is spirit, he is Brahma. And when you say Brahma, Brahma has no form. So anything that has form is material. Because that's what's happening now. You can see in the material world, everything has form. So anything that has form is material. So when you say Bhagavan, he has a form like Krishna, like medium-sized like person, like this. Then you think like, that form is material. Like this. So this is an example. So avidvat pratiti. So this is the sole cause of misunderstanding. That the impersonal feature of the Lord is real. And when he has form like Krishna, that is not real. This is temporary form. You think like that. But we know, by mercy of our Guru Varga, then we know this is not true. That form of Krishna is eternal. It's completely Sachit Ananda. If you have that understanding, that is based on Vidvat Pratiti. And where it is coming from? It's coming from the understanding, from the realization of those who have actual, like eyes and see him. Like this. One is unable to understand Paratattva, meaning the supreme truth, by using logic and argument. Can a human, having limited intelligence, understand an immeasurable entity? The supreme truth, Paramatattva, can only be understood and relished by those who perform devotional service. Okay, so here immediately he's making this point. If you try to understand God by logic and argument like this, then you will fail, because this logic and argument, this is powerless in knowing about God. When you say logic, that is based on your mental capacity, which is material. By your material power, you cannot learn about that is beyond. So many of these things beyond material, they go beyond logic also. Like this point that Bhagavan, he has a form, but he can be everywhere. So how would you make that? How your mind can understand that? To be everywhere, that means like by your mind, you will always conclude. To be everywhere, that means you will have no form. You shouldn't have no form, because then you will be everywhere, like air. Because here you say air means everywhere, no form, like that. But when you talk about Bhagavan, he has a form, and he can be everywhere at the same time. So he's saying that supreme truth can only be understood and relished by who? Those who perform bhakti. Only by those who perform bhakti. Bhakti is the term for the initial stage of pure, unadulterated love or prem. So here Bhaktivinoda Thakur giving this definition just to differentiate between the term prem and bhakti. So we're talking about our goal is prem, unadulterated love. But I said the term used to refer to the initial stage of this prem is called, he said, bhakti. Without the mercy of Sri Krishna, Vidvat Pratiti cannot awaken. So now he's giving this point also. Okay, by Vidvat Pratiti you can understand. You will see Krishna as he is. But how this Vidvat Pratiti you can have? Only by mercy of Krishna, he's saying. Without mercy of Krishna, Vidvat Pratiti cannot come, cannot awaken. Because it is only by his grace that his knowledge potency, the Vidya Shakti, can assist the jiva. You understand? So this Vidvat Pratiti is when you take shelter of this knowledge potency, this Vidya Shakti. So who's the owner of that? Krishna. So without his grace, really, you cannot have this Vidvat Pratiti. Of all the conceptions in this world related to the supreme truth, the concept of Sri Krishna's form is the most suitable object in regard to pure and spotless prem. Did you get that? There are many conceptions in the world related to the supreme truth, related to the absolute truth. But he said the most suitable object in regard to pure and spotless prem is what? The concept of Krishna's form. And really, if you think about it, this Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he already analyzed this. Because if you don't accept that thing, how you can love, Because it requires first acceptance of the special form of Krishna. According to a special form of Krishna, then like a specific, love is there also. So when you talk about in regard to pure and spotless prem, then very suitable object, and the most suitable object, he's saying, is the concept of Krishna's form. It is not possible for prem to be experienced. Like, look, he said, it is not possible for prem to be experienced with Allah, the object of the Quran, or the object of the worship in the Quran. Even the Lord's dear friend, Prophet Muhammad, could not directly see the Swarup of the Lord. Because even though the Lord understands the friendly sentiments of the worshipper towards Him, He remains far from the worshipper who has feelings of great reverence towards Him. You understand? So that's why He's saying the most suitable object with regards to like prem, the most pure prem, is the form of Krishna. And now he's giving comparison. Let's say with the concept of Muslims. There's Muhammad. Their object of their worship is Allah. You cannot have this kind of like anything pastime of Allah like in grudge. No, Allah is in that concept of reverence. Like Allah. You have to worship Him like this. You can you can kill also for His worship. Like this. So the Christian God similarly remains a very distant entity or tattva. What to speak of the formless Brahma aspect? Even the personal incarnation of Narayan is not the form of which the jivas can most easily attain pure prem. So like even Narayan, also you cannot have that like very pure prem. Narayan has no friend. In Vaikuntha, Narayan has no friend. Narayan has no mother and father. Everyone is servant there. Because like you cannot find like Vaikuntha people there like playing with Narayan and making Narayan like their horse. They defeat Narayan in a game and then they ride on Narayan like that. The people in Vaikuntha, they cannot even imagine that. That's happening in Braj. So much prem is there, very pure. They have no concept of this like God is God like this. You understand? So that's why only with Krishna, this pure love, like, it goes. So, only Sri Krishna, who is always residing in his transcendental abode of Sri Vrindavan, is the direct object of this pure prem. Okay, so now he's making it very clear. When they talk about God, really the object of this very pure prem is only Krishna. You will not find in any of his other manifestations. Okay, because like also like in Vaikuntha, Narayan has no mother father. No, nobody will chastise Narayan. Like, hey, don't do like this and like that. But in Braj, then you will see another of this one this flavor of prem, like the moods of those with Vatsalya Bhav. They're serving Krishna because everyone is serving Krishna, but in special flavors. So that if I will not serve Krishna, he will die. Like it will not be good for Krishna if he behaves like this, like bad. So then we have to chastise him like this. So you'll see their love is like that, and Krishna also creates like many naughty activities, and in this way catching attention of all these elders, and he gets chastised like that. Of all the conceptions, no. The abode of Sri Krishna is composed of bliss. Even though complete opulence is present, it has no influence there. So where is this? He's talking about abode of Krishna, only composed of bliss. That is in Goloka, in Vrindavan, in Gokul, or in Braj. He said there's opulence there. There's opulence, but this opulence has no influence. It has no influence. In Vaikuntha, everything is opulent. There's always only opulence is there. The supreme abode of Bhagavan Shri Krishna is composed of madhurya, sweetness. Even though opulence, Aishwarya, is fully present there, it has no influence at all. Everything is composed of sweetness and eternal ecstasy, Nityananda. Said, everything is composed of Nityananda. There, flowers, fruits, and twigs are the wealth, and herds of cows are the citizens. So their wealth are the flowers, fruits, and twigs. And the herds of cows are the citizens. But it doesn't mean there's no all these diamonds and all this, like, they're all there actually. But it has no influence.
желать и различать. Никаких других сознающих живых существ
The cowherd
вы не
boys and
найдете то,
girls
что
are
есть
his
у
intimate
людей. То есть
friends
есть
and
определенный
associates.
уровень развлечения,
Milk,
это уже уровень
yogurt, and
сознания.
butter are
И вот
his
люди, они
foodstuffs.
считаются, что у них
Pure Krishna
более
prem
развитое
saturates
мышление,
all
чем
the
у всех
forests
остальных. По
and
этой
groves.
причине
Sri Krishna attracts the river Yamuna to his service. The entire spiritual atmosphere is his maidservant.
это понятно, да? То есть так как у них
Elsewhere, Sri
более
Krishna is the
высокий уровень
absolute truth, Parabrahma,
мышления,
accepts the worship and
они
respect of
доминируют
all
над
people.
теми,
But in
кто
Braj, that same
меньшее
Krishna, the
сознание или
most
вообще нету
beloved, is
сознания.
simply the life and soul of everyone.
Это сейчас
Are
такая
you following?
проблема. Люди с друг
So,
другом
there in Braj,
враждуют для того, чтобы
they're just
быть
pure
первыми. И
sweetness.
вот из этого все эти войны
He
проходят,
said, the
и
pure Krishna
они
prem,
хотят
it
доминировать.
saturates all the forests and groves. And and everyone is attracted to his service, like the river Yamuna.
Ишвара тоже
He said the entire spiritual atmosphere is like his maidservant. But they're serving in that mood that Krishna is our very life and soul, like this. Not that like, oh, he is the Lord and it's my duty. And like if I'm not, then I may be punished. You know, like have that kind of Aishwarya. Like this. He said the absolute truth, Krishna, Parabrahma, he accepts the worship and respect of everyone. But and that is the situation in Aishwarya. But even that does not satisfy Krishna. Like, you know. So in Vaikuntha, like that, everyone like worshipping his master, like this. But in Braj, simply he's just the life and soul of everyone. Sometimes it appears that his associates are equal to him, and sometimes it even appears that he is subordinate or inferior to them, like this. And that is because of their love. By their love, that Supreme Person, he becomes like a baby, you know, and like he will be crying. Like this. He becomes angry also. Like, oh, why not? Why putting me down? Like this. You're supposed to carry me. Like this. Like Mother Yasoda, she put Krishna down to get the milk. You know. But whatever activities they're doing, it's all really for Krishna's pleasure only. So like, she may put down Krishna, you know, and it may appear that what she's doing is displeasing to Krishna. But that is still anukul, favorable. Why? Because she went to get that milk, save the milk, because that will be used for Krishna's service. Without the supremacy of Madhurya, how would it be possible for the insignificant jiva to have loving exchanges with the absolute truth? Paramatattva, who is full of pastimes and possesses independent desire, is desirous of the jiva's pure devotion. Will he, who is the natural lord of everything and the supreme controller, be anxious like an ordinary human being to receive worship? And will being worshipped satisfy him so that he then feels pleased with himself? No. Okay, you understand this. This is the mood of opulence. Sometimes we think like this, that to satisfy Krishna, then you have to like make all these grand offerings like this. So, but no, you may do all these grand offerings, but without love, he will not accept. You know, he will not be happy. And we see, like in Bhagavatam, it says like that how the even, you know, like the gopis, like chastisement of Krishna. When they rebuke Krishna, like that, like kind of like insult him, like this. Even that is so much more than all the prayers of the Vedas. You know, like this for Krishna. Why? Because whatever they're telling are like so pleasing to Krishna. Like that.
У него тоже своя сварупа, да, у материи тоже своя сварупа.
So he said, he is complete within himself in every way. Krishna Chandra, the support and basis of the most astonishing nectar that emanates from his pastimes, has covered his complete opulence by his own sweetness. He accepts equality and inferiority with those jivas qualified for this Vrajarasa. So those jivas who qualified for this Vrajarasa, Krishna, he accepts even equality and even subordination. And that's only happening because of their love. This happens in the aprakrit, the transcendental abode of Shri Vrindavan. By performing this type of pastime, he himself tastes bliss. So he, by these pastimes, actually this is happening. And we can understand, this is with regards to Krishna's engagement in pastimes arranged by the Ladini Shakti. Ladini Shakti making all this, sweet, happy pastimes. That's why it's called Ladini. Can those who accept only spotless and complete prem as their goal choose anyone other than Sri Krishna as the final object of their prem? So that is the very good question. If you choose this like highest type of prem, who else can you accept aside from Krishna? Like, yeah, who else that you see, like Bhagavan, that performing this kind of pastimes? Like Ram does not like this. No, who else? Narayan, no.
Так вот, атеисты не принимают, что есть что-то высшее, что существует высший дух. Почему?
Although there is a difference in language and the use of unfamiliar terms,
закрыто, они в невежестве пребывают.
Like which terms? Like Vrindavan, even the word, the name Krishna, like for other people it may be, strange. And Gopa, Gopi, Yamuna, Kadamba, all these terms. Still, the pure practitioner, the sadhaka, who is searching for prem, wherever he may be, will definitely accept these names, forms, qualities, and paraphernalia according to their characteristic symptoms, even if they are described in different language and style. Okay, so now we know there's Vrindavan or Yamuna or all these things related to Krishna. If you also really want that kind of prem like this, you may use different type of language. You may call Vrindavan as the forest of Vrinda or whatever, but you're bound to accept these different personalities because they're always there in that part of like pastime. In conclusion, there is no one else apart from Sri Krishna who is the object of pure love. Okay, so that is his conclusion. Until pure spontaneous attraction, or what we call the Vishuddha Rag, or we call prem, has awakened. The sadhaka should continue cultivating the performance of the primary and secondary rules and regulations of devotion. So, understand, until the pure, spontaneous prem is awakened, then sadhak should continue what we do as we call sadhana. Sadhana. You perform the primary and secondary rules and regulations of bhakti. The cultivation of activities towards Krishna. This is called Krishna Anusilan. The cultivation of activities. Okay, take note. We're talking about your cultivation. You're cultivating. So this is called Anushilan. Anushilan. Anushilan means constant cultivation. So he said, what are we cultivating? We are cultivating what? Activities. Actually, two things. Chesta and bhav. That's what we are cultivating. When we talk about bhakti, when we say bhakti is Krishna Anushilan. So it's cultivation of things favorable for Krishna. But which are they? So then it has been explained. Two things are there. Cultivation of activities or endeavors. that is cheshta, and cultivations of bhav, moods. Moods. So two things are there, and these two are important. These two have to be there. Understand? Why? Because Param Gurudev very nicely, he wrote actually one very nice article about this, because this is related to Rupa Goswami's definition of Uttama Bhakti. Everybody knows, no? Everyone knows? Definition, Uttama Bhakti? Yeah, because Gurudev said, if you don't know, you are not his disciple. Standing like that. Anya Vilashita Sunyam, Gyan Karmadi Anavritam, Anukul Yena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhakti Uttama. Okay. The first half is like the secondary. Secondary is the external description. External meaning it's related to the external world. Because external meaning that you can see. How you see this? When your activities are not covered by Gyan and Karma. You have no other desire. Only your real desire. And what is your real desire? This bhakti. That is like that one. So that means no other desire, meaning you have no desire for bhukti, mukti. Sense gratification, liberation. All this other desire. Only for Krishna. And really, this bhukti and mukti, they're coming from these ideas which are contaminated by Gyan or Karma. That's why I said, Anyabilasita sunyam, completely free from other desires. Gyan, Karma, Adi, Anavritam. Gyan, Karma, Adi, and others, Anavritam. Anavritam covered. Covered by Gyan and Karma and others. But actually, Adi can also refer to origin. Meaning desires originating from Gyan and Karma. Gyan meaning this, what is the desire originating from Gyan? Really, that desire for liberation. What is the desire originating from Karma? Sense gratification, fruitive activities. Okay, so not covered by all these other activities. So then, but the real intrinsic meaning is in the next line, which means Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. That is Uttama Bhakti. Anukul. Anukul means favorable. Krishna Anushilanam. This cultivation of favorable. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. But the thing now here is, what are you cultivating? What are you cultivating? So his bhakti is the cultivation of, then Pranam Gurudev said, two things. What is that? Cheshta and bhav. When you say cheshta, meaning endeavors, activities performed by the body, by the senses. So that's cheshta. Okay, so you're cultivating all these activities, which are favorable to Krishna. But the other one is moods. Okay, because one can be cultivating activities, but unless the proper mood is cultivated, then it's not complete. And Param Gurudev giving the example, during the time of Prabhupada, so many are serving. So they're actually cultivating like physical service activities, but they have not cultivated the mood that, I am really like servant. I am, like that mood that I am the servant. And so then what happened? Param Gurudev said, those who have not properly cultivated the mood, they may be serving that time with Prabhupada. As soon as Prabhupada left, they also left. They were not fixed in that service like this. They have not developed the mood like this. So that's why when we talk about bhakti, then he said, not just cultivating activities, but really cultivating the mood. Then that is like full cultivation. Like this. So here he said, the cultivation of activities towards Krishna should be performed in a regulated manner with a spirit of duty. This will be explained in the second rainfall. So now we're on the first rainfall, the first division. So he said, I will discuss this in the second rainfall. The second rainfall is about Vaidhi Bhakti. So he said, so in a way he's telling, before this rag is awakened, as long as this rag, this spontaneous love, as long as this is not awakened, then you have to cultivate this regulative bhakti, meaning this Vaidhi bhakti. You follow all the rules and regulation like this, and do this in a very regular way, like this, and do this in a spirit of duty. So you remember yesterday, like 4 motivations why people engage in bhajan. First one is out of fear. Second is out of some material desires. But he said sometimes because bhakti is pleasurable. Bhakti is Ladini Shakti. So there will be pleasure in engaging in bhakti. It gives you happiness. Then after some time, you actually can give up those motivations. You are doing bhakti not anymore out of fear. You're doing bhakti not anymore out of your desire for material rewards. But you will now have appreciation. Oh, this is for Bhagavan. You will now be doing this out of the sense of duty. So now you enter into this third one, the third reason why people doing bhajan. It's out of sense of duty. They feel this is my dharma, like that. So he said, as long as rag has not come, then you do this. You do according out of duty, like this. But higher than that is really when you do bhakti based on really out of rag. Like there's spontaneous attraction in this. Okay. Then he said, scriptures mention 2 paths for the attainment of Krishna Prem. There are 2 paths for the attainment of Krishna Prem, Vaidhi and Rag. Upon deep consideration, one can see that there are only these 2 paths. There's no other 3 paths, a third or fourth. Only these 2 paths. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, really, if you deliberate upon this and try to analyze, only there's these 2 paths. It is the main duty of all of us to follow the path of Vaidhi until Rag awakens. So he said, until Rag is there, then follow the path of Vaidhi. Because really, how else are you gonna do? Vaidhi means, as has been explained before, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained. He said, those people who have realized, the Mahapurush who have realized their relation with Bhagavan, they know what is good for the jivas, the conditioned jivas. And therefore, they give some prescriptions. They're like doctors. They're like doctor. The doctor gives prescriptions. Oh, you do like this, like that. So, they write this in the scriptures. So what are examples of Vaidhi? Like Prahlad Maharaj, he giving very famous like this. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, like this. All these rules. Chant, hear, chant names, remember, like this. All these rules are there. So, if you don't have spontaneous love, then just follow this until, it says, until that time is awakened. Rag is awakened. Rag is exceedingly rare. But upon its awakening, one is no longer dependent on rules and regulations. Vaidhi. They said, rag is very rare, but once rag is there, you will not be dependent on Vaidhi. And that becomes like a thing that, you will see. Now you can see both paths are there, and you will no longer be on that path of Vaidhi. One thing also is, we don't misunderstand that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is not teaching that to come to Raganuga Bhakti or Vaidhi Bhakti will lead to Raganuga Bhakti. Like this. No. Although, he said, as long as there's no Rag, there's only the path of Vaidhi. Because look, there's only 2 paths, right? If you're not in the path of Rag, then definitely you'll be in Vaidhi. Like this. So as long as there's no Rag, continue following Vaidhi Bhakti. But there's some open secret here. How you go to this, to this Rag Bhakti, really is when you meet an actual sadhu, an actual Brijbasi, who actually make you become greedy, like this. Then you will have that desire. Like, oh, I don't want to remain in this, like, just just doing things out of rules and regulation, like this. And that's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur and our Guru Varga is actually showing to us. Like, oh, we go beyond this line. We have to attain spontaneous attraction. So there has to be someone who's actually from that world, an actual Raganuga Vakta. And by them, then you become so greedy that later on, naturally, you'll have the same kind of mood as they have. You will have that rag. Understand? And when that time comes, then you shift path. Like that. You won't be following anymore this by the path. What he's saying here, that as long as this rag has not come, follow nicely this Vaidhi path. Only a special, fortunate, and highly qualified sadhaka is able to follow this path, meaning this Raganuga path and this rag path. And the path of rag is completely independent. There are no special rules or conditions governing it. So that's why it's so called rag. It's based on rag. It's based on spontaneous attraction. It's not based on rules and regulations. So he said, this path is completely independent. No special rules or conditions that govern it. Therefore, only a systematic description of the daily practice on the path of Vaidhi is described here. So he said, if I am to describe, already he said this Raganuga path is independent. There's no very clear. So that one I cannot describe fully. If I describe something, I can only describe this Vaidhi path. Okay? So now we continue more next time. If again Prabhuji cannot give class, hopefully Prabhuji will be able to soon. Okay, Jai Shri Gurudev ki Jai, Shri Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki Jai, Shri Chaitanya sikshamrita ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.